right, our very own Piers Morgan, he sat down for an interview with Stormy Daniels, who, of course, is at the center of Alvin Bragg's case against Donald Trump. Now, Piers asked her if she wants Donald Trump to go to jail. Here's what she said.
Would it give you any kind of closure with your time involving Donald Trump to see him jailed?
Specific to my case, I don't think that his crimes against me are worthy of incarceration.
Okay, and Piers also asked Stormy about this infamous, we've read this many times, we've shown it to you many times, 2018 letter in which she denied having an affair with Donald Trump. And she signed her name to it. Take a look.
Right, so people point to the contents of this letter and they say, well, what changed? I mean, you couldn't have been more categoric in saying...
I was still under the NDA. Michael Cohen wrote that and had me sign it, and I didn't want to, which is why I signed my name wrong right before I went on Kimmel and pointed it out.
How did you sign your name?
It doesn't look like my signature.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
But you were still under the NDA, so you felt that obliged to do this.
I was told if I didn't, they'd sue me for the $20 million or whatever it was. I had not been released from the NDA.
All right, here now is Piers Morgan. Piers, welcome to the show. Good to have you back.
Thank you, Sean.
You know, so I'm a fan. By the way,
great audience, Sean. Tonight. Fantastic audience.
They're great. They love you too.
I wish I was there. I wish I was in New York.
We'd love to have you. All right. So, and by the way, we used to be competitors. You know, he once worked at fake news CNN. And he's glad now.
He used to beat my ass every night in the ratings. He used to kill me.
But you talked about America and guns, and I'm like, every time you talked about guns, I'm like, yes, they don't want to be lectured by a Brit about our gun laws. We believe in our Second Amendment. But we became good friends, and you know, I was thinking about this because your show's doing phenomenal. You had Donald Trump, Boris Johnson, I believe you had recently, Ron DeSantis recently, Bibi Netanyahu recently. You go to all those people, and now Stormy Daniels? I was a little surprised. But I'm really curious about this because the issue of an NDA is very specific, that somebody will agree to accept a certain amount of money, and in exchange, they say they will not disclose whatever the incident is about. Whether it's true or not true, you know, I believe in the old-fashioned way. A handshake is a deal, but I'm old school. So did she agree to the NDA or not? Did you get that out of her?
Well, I think it's complicated and it's very interesting. And let me just say at the start that Donald Trump, as I said in the course of the interview, has always emphatically denied any affair. She has emphatically said there was one. And there was, of course, undeniably, this NDA, which was agreed between them just before the 2016 election. So all those things are as they are. But the question is, was she released from that NDA? And before she was released, was she compelled to deny the affair? She said very strongly in the interview that in January 2018, when the Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, whichever one it was, broke the story about this deal that they'd done before the 2016 election, she said that she was under pressure from Michael Cohen, Donald Trump's lawyer, that she had to go along with denying any affair. Otherwise, she would be in breach of the NDA and she would have to pay $20 million. And she really believed that. So I think that's probably true. The question then is, what happened after that? Well, very quickly after that, she sued to be released from the NDA. And Donald Trump, because he hadn't signed the NDA himself, it was all done by others, including Michael Cohen, he actually, in that court process when she sued, released her from the NDA effectively and said, look, I didn't sign it and she's no longer has to abide by it. And on the back of that, she went out and did interviews, including with Anderson Cooper at CBS and others. And Donald Trump, to my knowledge, has taken no legal action against her or those networks as a result of her talking about what she says was the affair. So that's the chronology here. But what's interesting, Sean, I thought, my takeaway was what she then said about this whole case, because it doesn't really matter who you believe about the affair. That's not what this court case is now about. The court case is about whether there was some kind of cover-up, what the $130,000 was all about. And that is really what is at the center of what happened in Manhattan this week. I share your view, for what it's worth, that it's a massive overreach. And I think Stormy Daniels shares that view. And she's the woman at the center of the Stormy, if you like. And I think she shares the view that this is all a bit over the top. Are we really going to see an American president brought down and put in prison because of a relationship he may or may not have had with a porn star? It seems absurd. So I think that putting it all in context, Stormy Daniels is entitled to her opinions. Donald Trump is entitled to his emphatic denials. But ultimately, she shares the view of what I think is what most people think, which is that this is a huge overreach going on this case in Manhattan.
Piers, there is a timeline problem, and the timeline is this. She signs the NDA, fine. The election happens. The allegation is Donald Trump wanted Michael Cohen to do this, even though Michael Cohen himself and Michael Cohen's lawyer said they did it without the knowledge of the Trump campaign or the Trump organization. Now, the timeline is money paid to Michael Cohen listed in the indictment all happened in 2017. Okay, so that would have been after the Michael Cohen agreement with Stormy. But the problem for them then becomes 2018, in February, when Michael Cohen's lawyer writes a letter to the FEC saying that the Trump organization, the Trump campaign, had absolutely nothing to do with this deal. This was between Michael and Stormy. So I think they got a big timeline problem. Do you see that?
Well, listen, it's very complicated. There's no question.
No, it's not that complicated.
I've obviously...
You got all the payments were 2017. In 2018, they denied any payment was ever made by the Trump organization or the Trump campaign.
Yeah. No, I'm not talking about the intricacies of what's happened in Manhattan. I'm talking about the timeline, which is Stormy Daniels sues to be released from the NDA, and Donald Trump allows her to be released from the NDA. That's the timeline she sticks to as to why she then came out and was allowed to speak. And I think that's probably accurate. As to the veracity
last question.
of the timeline you talk about, that's a different issue. Yeah.
Okay. If an NDA, people enter into an NDA, should that be respected? In other words, you make a deal, you make a decision, you sign your name. At that point, you accept money. Why shouldn't that be a valid legal document?
Well, it absolutely should be. But bear in mind, Sean, she did actually win that case. It was dismissed. She was declared the winner. In fact, all the money that she owes Donald Trump when she sued him for defamation, actually, some of the money won't be paid because she's owed that by the Trump side for the NDA case she fought, which she was actually deemed to be the successor on. So it is complicated. And I think she was entitled to go and tell her story, albeit I don't know if the story that she tells is the true one.
All right. Piers Morgan, you've had some phenomenal interviews lately. Thanks for sharing it with us. Great to see you.